Greetings from Costa Rica, folks. It's Costa Rica Matt here, aka Matt Rosensteel, with a live broadcast today. It is Mattvent Day 5. I should have cleared my throat before I came live onto YouTube. Our subject tonight is an overview of the Guanacaste, Costa Rica real estate market. Really, my intention is to give a straightforward, efficient, geographic look at Guanacaste's real estate market, along with just a little bit of history regarding the market and trying to give people an overview of where you might start looking depending on a certain type of need or your goals as somebody who's looking for real estate in Costa Rica. I've been super excited. This is number 5 in a series of videos we are calling Mattvent. I loved Advent calendars growing up. It's the month of December, and so I decided for 2 reasons to try and produce a digital treat for my audience every day of the month of December. First of all, my nostalgia for Advent calendars, pulling out that little treat that was a different bit of something great every single day was absolutely wonderful. Second of all, I imagine myself having done 25 consecutive videos on Christmas, which for me is an absolutely huge goal. And if I'm able to accomplish it, I'll be able to really relax over Christmas and New Year's like one would want to here in Guanacaste. So we're celebrating the December month with 1 video every single day. As always, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you like straightforward information on Costa Rica. I have over 360 videos uploaded to date, and we will continue adding new real estate analysis, market updates, listings, all kinds of good stuff, those fire sales. So be sure to stay tuned to the channel. If you're joining me live, feel free to post a comment or question. I'm more than happy to veer totally off the subject at hand to answer your questions. I'd also love to have anyone report in, no matter where you are in the US, Canada, Europe, or here in Costa Rica. Tell me where you are. Be sure to like this video, add your comments later. Every little bit of participation helps. Before I get started, I did want to reiterate that on Thursday, December 7th, just 2 days from now, I will be in Playa Tamarindo with Pablo Arias and some other great people. Becca, who runs an English school. I haven't said her last name online yet because, frankly, I don't want to mispronounce it. But at the Surf Shack in Tamarindo, we're going to have live music, a meet and greet. We're going to have opportunities for expats and Costa Ricans to connect, for language opportunities. This is going to be right in downtown at the Circle in Tamarindo this Thursday, December 5th from 4:30 to 6:30. And the absolute best part, folks, is that we have 100 free drinks offered at the event. So if you'd like to come and meet and greet and get to know different people from the community of Tamarindo, the whole idea is creating language practice opportunities, both for Ticos who need English for job training and US, Canadian, other English speakers who want to learn a little bit of Spanish. I will also be there and happy to discuss your real estate questions if you happen to have them. Although I have to say, if we don't get a big crowd, I will feel obligated to fill as many of those 100 drinks as take advantage of them as possible. And it might not be the best night ever to get some good advice from me. Dewar, thanks so much for tuning in from New Jersey, Vegas native. Love to hear from people in Vegas. I have never, ever been there. Only really my Western travel has been limited. And John Miller, not much is up. Always happy to have you with me. Oh, I even called out to you in my last live show, and it may have been the first one ever that you weren't present. Yes, there is a moth in my office because it's 8 p.m., folks. We're here a little bit later in the evening. I've got some windows open, and an absolutely bright light shining in my face for our live YouTube episode. Again, we'll be right back with our main subject, an overview of the Guanacaste real estate market. Thanks so much for joining me, folks, and stay. Thanks so much for joining me tonight from all over the world for Costa Rica Mattvent Day 5. We're doing a geographic overview of the Guanacaste real estate market. And to start out, one of the points I wanted to make, there can be a little bit of confusion because Guanacaste is not actually the entire peninsula that sticks out to the west part of Costa Rica in the Pacific. Guanacaste does not include the very south areas of the peninsula. That happens to be very convenient for our discussion tonight because I've only been down to those very south areas a couple times. So we'll just go ahead and exclude them since we're focusing on Guanacaste. But that very edge of the peninsula, this yellow that you see down there, that's actually part of Punta Arenas, the county that stretches around the whole Pacific side of Costa Rica from Panama all the way to Guanacaste. Why did the tip of the peninsula originally go with Punta Arenas? Well, Costa Rica and this entire coastline was originally, or for a long time, much more accessible by boat. Specifically Guanacaste, it was easier to come from the populous Central Valley here in the middle of Costa Rica's landmass and to get out to Guanacaste by boats. So when they formed up the provinces, it didn't make too much of a difference to put those southern areas with Punta Arenas because virtually everyone who was going to those beach communities at the very southern end of the Guanacaste Peninsula were definitely ending up, it was far, far easier to get there by boat. You can see here, I was recently down in the southern end of the peninsula and they were talking about just how wonderful it used to be when there were tons and tons of ferries departing from the mainland coming out to Guanacaste every day. A lot of people sort of commuted that way or shipped their goods all over the country. Today, there are still ferries from locations like Paquera out to the mainland, but it's definitely not nearly as important for people for two reasons. And those two reasons I want to discuss because they're extremely important to the Guanacaste real estate market. First of all, in 2003, I even started that number wrong. 2003, the people of Taiwan and the government were generous enough to donate a bridge over what is the Rio Tempisque, or really sort of the narrowest part of the Gulf of Nicoya. So immediately in 2003, you then had a new connection that made the southern areas of Guanacaste much more accessible to everybody who's coming over from that central valley I mentioned, which is over here. That the Puente de la Amistad, as it's known, immediately boosted tourism nationally in Samara, which happened to be the closest beach if you came across the Puente de Amistad. And you can still see today that Samara is a community that has been developing longer than other beach coastal communities because this bridge was providing access to that Central Valley tourism as of 2003. The other huge thing that changed and affected the Guanacaste real estate market, and here, obviously tonight I want to focus on the Guanacaste real estate market for expats, English speakers who are probably tuning in and interested in investing here, was obviously the Liberia International Airport, which actually had been in existence for many, many years. It was built, I think, in the late 70s. However, in 95, they switched the airport to an international airport upgraded the runways, and started receiving international flights. Interestingly, that airport opening went extremely fast. They had, in the first year, about one flight per week on average that was coming internationally. Then already in the second year, you were looking at one flight per day. And now I would say we're up to about 20 flights per day into what has now been rebranded as the Guanacaste International Airport. You will still find it with the airport code LIR online, but it has been renamed the Guanacaste Airport for branding purposes. It was previously Daniel Oduber International Airport, named for the president who launched the project back in, the late 70s. Cheers to everyone out there. Let's do some quick shout outs here. I saw Leo. I absolutely agree with you that I am the man, Leo. Clinton, love to hear that you're tuning in again as well. It was absolutely great speaking with you, and I hope you can make it back here sometime and actually meet me this time. Eric Gill, awesome. Sorry to hear that you're in rainy Seattle, but in my business, real estate, there's always the hope that people will have a need for this real estate, and you clearly have one if you are living in Seattle. So feel free to send me an email to matt@costaricamatt.com, and we'll help you get out of Seattle. I wanted to get back here to our map and start talking about the Liberia International Airport and its effect on the market. Let's look first at the road setup here, and you can look at this as analysis of how the Guanacaste market then developed. You had this major highway connecting you to the international airport, and predictably, as soon as flights started arriving internationally in the late 90s, Coco, right over here, was the first major tourism hub to see that kind of rapid development, specifically aimed towards expats and getting gringos to buy condos. Coco is also a community that reflects that it was developed a little bit longer ago, and you do see in Coco itself that there are some fairly old condo buildings, and there can be construction that doesn't quite look as handsome as newer stuff in other locations. Coco is literally, I don't know, maybe a 20 or 30-minute drive from the airport, and people absolutely loved that absolutely easy, direct access out to Coco. You would say, honestly, Coco is one of the northernmost points of importance in Guanacaste for the expat real estate market. Further north, really the only concentration of expat, gringo real estate that you would see is right here at the Four Seasons Papagayo Resort. This peninsula that sticks out into the Pacific was a massive tourism project done by the Costa Rican government, where essentially the government took control of a peninsula, created an enormous development zone, and tried to cash in as much as possible directly on tourism themselves. How did they do this? Well, the entire Papagayo Peninsula is actually leased land. They made it a concession project. So all of these different tenants here are renting this land from the Costa Rica government. They have sweetheart leases. I think they're longer than any other concession in the country. They're guaranteed renewal by certain extra things. And there was even a special law created for the Papagayo Tourism Project. When you're talking about different kinds of concession land in Costa Rica, there is XYZ and Papagayo land, which is specifically defined by a law that they set up for it. To the north of Papagayo, you would be hard-pressed to find vibrant tourism communities. Frankly, the access to most of those beaches is not at all what the access out to Playas del Coco is. You can see There's a paved highway out to the Coco corridor right here. And then essentially you have a straight shot up to Nicaragua without good access out to the beach communities. Up here, interestingly, this national park, Parque Nacional Santa Rosa, was one of the visionaries who put it together was a U.S. citizen, Dan Jansen, just absolutely created an enormous biological reserve that also is now not seeing any of this foreigner development, because most of this peninsula has been roped off and preserved. Let's return to our tour here. So Playas del Coco, whoops, zoomed in a little bit, is absolutely a hub itself, where you then see development that's sprawling out into the beaches nearby. And specifically from Coco, you've got Playa Hermosa to the north up here, and Playa Ocotal to the south. I spend so little time in Coco, I'm hesitant to say a lot about Coco, but to quickly put a generalization on the kinds of people who can be happiest in Playas del Coco, and remember, this is just a generalization. Everybody can be happy anywhere, but it tends to attract expats who really want to have a lot of contact with other expats, people who aren't necessarily planning to learn Spanish, people who want to have every single American-style restaurant that they have in the U.S. Coco is a perfect place to retire because they have amenities coming out their ears up there. And really, you see that once you have a certain number of U.S. citizens living in a beach community, a lot of them like to move there because they already have access to that culture, the scene, etc. And I've met people who are very happy there because they can get that interaction with people they recognize from their home country in America, Canada, etc. And in particular, I would say that the average age of Coco is a little bit higher than the average age of all of the other places we're going to look at. And I'll just leave it at that. It generally appeals to somewhat older folks who really would love to have all of that stuff that they can have back in the US or Canada. Paint Escapes, really appreciate you commenting, Christine and Teresa. Only sell in that part of the country. Yes, I absolutely am focused on Guanacaste. Really, I think if you meet realtors who say, I can help you anywhere in Costa Rica, you should look at them with a little bit of incredulity, or you should give them an incredulous look. I focus on a range that's actually within Guanacaste that we are about to start discussing here. So you've got Hermosa up to the north of Coco. It's kind of like a Beverly Hills, a little bit nicer than Coco itself. Ocotal has a ton of houses just sort of spread around. Really, it feels like there are tons and tons of ocean view, larger homes in Ocotal. Coco itself, you've got millions of condos. You do have plenty of homes as well. The new hot item there is the Pacifico project, where they're building all kinds of condos. And actually, they're really trying to hit a price point there at $200,000 and up at Pacifico, providing really reasonably priced product to people out there. So from Playas del Coco south, the only thing of note that is happening, obviously you have the Rio Resort. There's no real estate bordering the Rio, and it is this little beach here is basically owned and just fully consumed by the Rio itself. You can see the scale of the two Rio hotels right there. The next point of interest that I want to discuss for expat real estate, well, first of all, there is an exclusive gated community going in right here. That's called the Zapotal Beach Club. Their lots are priced from 2 through 20 million for the piece of land. If anybody out there wants to be in Zapotal, I'd love to speak with you about it. Usually I don't see a lot of people watching my channel who want to put in $150,000 annually for your club fees, especially on a property that you are not allowed to rent, like Zapotal. So let's move south and get down to our next major expat corridor, where we see lots of US and Canadian citizens down here in Costa Rica. And really it starts with Las Catalinas and comes all the way south to where I'm sitting here at this blue dot in Paraíso. Las Catalinas itself is a Mediterranean style or inspired seaside town. Here you can see that they did very dense development in a community right up on the water. Here you'll be able to see, I'm sure if I pull up some of these photos on the left side of the screen here, sort of the style that they chose was really unlike anything else in Guanacaste. They tried to get this absolutely charming Italian, Tuscan sort of feel, and people who are interested in having a walkable community absolutely gravitate towards Catalinas because downtown it feels like this seaside village. Las Catalinas is pricey. You're looking at $600,000 or $700,000 for 1 or 2 bedroom smaller condos. If you're down here, they're going to be developing a huge project on this hillside with tons of homes up here. Interestingly, they don't have parking down here at the seaside village, and a lot of this is only going to be walkable as well. It's created some parking issues up at Las Catalinas. I won't go into it too much more, but it is a very unique, interesting place where the happiest person is definitely that typically a family, because they want to be around a lot of other people. A lot of the people gravitating towards Las Catalinas are those families moving from California, lots of areas in the coastal US where they dream of having tight-knit community, but at the beach, because you do have critical access here to the area's private schools. And that's the next point I want to make. Playas del Coco has all kinds of wonderful private bilingual school options. The next school options are also down here in this corridor, where you've got La Paz Community School just outside Flamingo. You have CRIA, Costa Rica International Academy, just outside of Playa Bracelito, right here. Then you have another 2 or 3 schools between these two towns, Huacas, and I'm trying to get over here. Huacas and Villarreal down here to the south. There are another couple of schools in here. One is Educarte. Another one is Journey, my personal favorite. You also have a new school, Flourish, that's faith-based. So down here you have this private education corridor that the schools are both representative of the fact that this area developed for expats, and the schools facilitate the area's development for expats at the same time. If you are far from private schools, you're seeing that there's not nearly as much interest in the community as if you're close to those international private school options. So up here, after Las Catalinas, just south, you're in the community of Potrero, where you've got the Surfside neighborhood and blocks of walkable community here right at the ocean. Potrero is special because it was titled all the way to the ocean itself, rather the 50-meter line above the ocean. So these titled beachfront properties are developable. They are high value because of that title. But Potrero itself is part of a big bay where you don't get any surf. And it's amazing in Guanacaste how much that can change the nature of a community over time. Playas del Coco as well is a non-surf community. Potrero is a non-surf community. And instantly you would see that the average age of people living in Potrero rather the expats living in Potrero would be slightly higher than the average age of the expats down in Tamarindo, where surf is the absolute rage. Potrero has a really nice feeling because a lot of people, there are fewer renters, there are more people living in the community year round. You've got a great selection of restaurants there, one of which, the Shack, is my favorite in the area. But you've seen Potrero skyrocket in price along with the entire Flamingo area just here to the south, thanks to the Flamingo Marina expansion. They just got done putting $35 million into this marina expansion. There are close to 200 boat slips there, and the marina itself has created skyrocketing values in the area. You've seen, over the last 5 years, condos and homes in Flamingo itself increase in value at least 150%. Now, we don't have that data. We're always comparing apples, oranges, and different stuff. But, I have clients examining a one-bedroom condo right now that's asking $550. 13 years ago, they were pre-sold at $250, and even 5 years ago, you could still find those condos more in the $350 to $450 range. They will have to pay $550 to get it now because it's so close to the marina. In Potrero, to me, it's kind of funny because you've got this really quaint little neighborhood that honestly does not feel any more special than pretty much anywhere in Guanacaste. But because it has access to those schools, because it's all titled land close to the beach, and because it's very close to the Flamingo Marina, you now have to pay $500,000 for a small 3-bedroom home on a 1/4 acre in this neighborhood. That $500,000 price point, again, is a generalization. You would have seen those same homes selling at $300,000 or even less, 6 or 7 years ago prior to the pandemic rush. Now, Potrero is just one of few walkable communities that also provide that access to the schools. Sorry to scratch my nose there. Let's continue moving on. We'll do a quick check here. Christine and Teresa, is it true that we cannot access the same cheese? Never has a better question been asked to veer off topic rapidly here from the real estate market. Lately, you can get pretty much any cheese you need. It will cost you a lot. But one of the biggest changes in Guanacaste from when I moved here in 2008 to today in 2023 is definitely the availability of cheese in many varieties. In fact, earlier tonight, I was having a fine herby goat cheese spread on focaccia that I had gotten from, an Italian restaurant and bakeries or deli. So really, cheeses are available if you happen to be in this expat corridor that we're talking about. If you go up into the mountains in the remote regions of Costa Rica, you will only find local varieties of cheese as well as the few blocks that are mass produced here in the country. Another question incoming, is the temperature and humidity the same throughout your catchment area? You are, unfortunately, everywhere that I'm talking about is going to be just about as hot and humid as everywhere else. It would be possible to get a little bit more breeze if you moved up onto the hills in this area versus down in a gully or sort of valley. But finding a noticeable temperature difference anywhere in here is almost impossible. One of the places you could possibly do it would be to go to the absolute top of these mountains where you've driven up a 45-minute, uncharted road to get up so high in the stratosphere that you finally feel just a tad bit cooler. And even then, the temperature change is going to be negligible compared to the awful drive that it took to get up those mountains. Let's return to talking about So we're wrapping up Flamingo and Potrero, where the marina has absolutely skyrocketed prices. Brasilito down here is actually still, by and large, a Tico community here along the beach. These are concession properties that I'm sure have just been so tied up with different problems with the actual concessions that they've never really been developed. The big news in Brasilito itself down here is Reserva Conchal, which is one of the only 3 golf courses in this entire area we're talking about. You've got one at Papagayo, you have one here at Reserva Conchal, and you have one at Hacienda Pinilla a little bit to the south. You could see Reserva Conchal is a massive, multi-thousand acre property, and they have several hundred condos, dozens of homes, all spread out in different projects, where here you've got the Corral condos, for example. Here are the Bougainvillea condos. Down here is single homes. That's a different project called Melinas. Over here, you've got, hobo condos, just different varieties on the same theme that they've built over the years. They've really started going with some high-end ocean view lot inventory, where they've cut out small phases of ocean view properties up here, for example, where they were offering ocean view lots in the $600,000 and $700,000 range. They then sold a big development property to the Solaris developers. There are going to be 3 towers here, a total, I think, of 24 or 32 new condos, but those are all priced around $1 million, in just a sign of where the market is heading. Reserva Conchal feels like Disneyland the moment you're inside. Everything is manicured. And I'm sorry, I use the word Disneyland in a way that's unique, I think, to Costa Rica, Matt, but it feels absolutely pristine and really well manicured. And it's very certainly an enclave where you feel very secure. You're going to run into a lot of people who are international, relocating internationally, and where, yes, it's somewhat elitist overall, because prices, even for the most basic condos, are currently above $750,000. And there's rarely inventory on the market in Conchal itself. That demand really is supported by the fact that, as I mentioned, the Costa Rica International Academy, or CRIA, is right across the way. As we move further south here, another development worth mentioning, or up here by Flamingo, is Mar Vista. This is just outside of Flamingo. Mar Vista has La Paz Community School, which is K through 12 private school. Again, this is a very enclave feeling community. You've got houses stacked up going up the hillside so that everybody has ocean views. And it's one of the denser developments you'll find in Guanacaste. For my money, it's probably the easiest place, this is Mar Vista, for families who have kids that are going to be in school to relocate and still feel like they live in a neighborhood with a lot of kids that speak the same language as their kids. It's a community where so many people also go to La Paz Community School, where you have a ton of US, Canadian, Europeans with kids of all ages living there, that make Mar Vista a pretty easy place for people to move. Just a moment here, I am going to take a short beverage break for just one moment here. Have to take a sip of Modelo. Yes, John, I have switched to Modelo. My wife has upgraded her tastes, which is absolutely fine by me. I like Imperial, but pretty much any lager will do when you're hot and on YouTube. Steve Z, back to the cheese. I have some Violife vegan cheese on ciabatta now. Vegan cheese, I think it's That's just such contrasting terms that I wouldn't understand. Could it be called mushroom protein or something? Anyway, no, thanks very much for joining us as well. Ricanto mango. Oh yeah, the ricante sauces are absolutely great, locally made. I'm not a big fan of the mango. I like their chipotle a lot. I think is the most recent one I had. But anyway, we will get back to our tour here. Just realizing how big Guanacaste is and how much there is to say about the real estate market here. As a quick reminder, we're doing this as part of Mattvent, where I'm doing one new Costa Rica video every day for the month of December, not specifically in celebration of Christmas, really in celebration of all holidays, and, as a celebration of getting as much work done as I can before I start celebrating the holidays with my family. After you come south from Brasilito, your next big tourism hub is absolutely Tamarindo. And when we're talking about the entire Pacific coast of Costa Rica, it's important to mention that you have, in terms of tourism hubs, really you only have two that are bigger than Tamarindo, Jaco and Playas del Coco, which we already discussed earlier. And Tamarindo itself doesn't seem like that absolutely ridiculous of a metropolis. You can see here on the map, when you rope off what Tamarindo is, we're only talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 blocks inland, and probably less than a couple thousand people who live there year round. We're not talking about major coastal cities here. But it is an absolute tourism hub because it has a perfect learner's surf wave, and that brings people year round, no matter what. You've got endless numbers of surf schools. Really, the whole community feels like a surf town, and it's built on itself over the years. I think people started coming to Tamarindo for the surf and partying, and the next people who came saw others surfing and partying, and the party just kept building and building and building. Now, Tamarindo feels very much like, on weekend nights, it is meant for partying, dining, going out to bars, etc. It really feels like that typical sort of coastal, party town where everyone has only a few things on their mind, and that's having fun. Interestingly, even though it's a party town, I've been recently there, and I was surprised to see just how quiet things can get after 8:30 or 9 p.m. And that's really just indicative of Costa Rica and sort of how things work here. Just to south of Tamarindo is Playa Langosta, which is really an appendix, sort of an extension on Tamarindo itself. And Langosta has always been sort of the upper, highfalutin luxury version or extension onto Tamarindo. One of the big differences is that whereas Tamarindo's beachfront was developed specifically with bars, restaurants, one beachfront hotel, but mainly just restaurants and bars, the Langosta beachfront down here was developed with millionaire homes ranging from $3 to $10 to $15 million. Langosta itself has always not been that surfing hub where Tamarindo is. And if you just walk down this road, it's amazing how you go from seeing people changing in and out of wetsuits on the street. You see lots of long hair, all kinds of people from all over the world having a good time, and that kind of vibe in Tamarindo. And then Langosta, immediately you feel like everyone is a generation older. You've got a lot more golf cart drivers, people wearing those nice little visors, or just some more white hair, and people who want a quieter lifestyle overall. They have it really nice because there's nothing really raging at night in Playa Langosta, even during the party times of year. During Christmas, Tamarindo will turn into an absolute quagmire of people and partiers. rentals will go crazy. And if you want to be in that kind of scene over Christmas and New Year's, wall to wall partying, Tamarindo can actually absolutely be the right place. Now, the Tamarindo market has absolutely also seen a huge elevation in prices, not because they have a marina or any specific project, but really in Guanacaste, you see that we've only talked about 3 walkable communities in this huge range of the coastline: Playas del Coco, Potrero, and Tamarindo itself. Everywhere else, you might find that you can walk to a couple things, but really there aren't walkable communities. Tamarindo all of a sudden became one of few hubs where you had that community feeling, and prices have gone up because anyone who wants to be in a town where they feel they can eat anything they want any time of the week, it's one of few options. I think a lot of families have felt comfortable moving there because, yes, Tamarindo has good access to the schools. It also has every source of entertainment on earth for kids and families in general. So a lot of people can more easily see themselves plopping down in a community like that versus some of the quieter areas like good old Junquillal down to the south. Tamarindo's also seen a huge boom sort of because of that positive feedback cycle where, I feel that people always get excited about buying real estate when they see others doing it. And in the community of Tamarindo, you had construction restrictions basically from the drought that set us back in 2014 and 15, all the way through a very brief window where construction was allowed in 2021 and 2022. Or rather, construction was allowed because new water letters were allowed for the first time in years. All of a sudden, people were vacuuming up water service and building all kinds of projects that were in the pipeline back when Tamarindo all of a sudden back when the county and rather the national government instituted those water restrictions. So all of a sudden, out of the gate, following COVID-19 shutdowns, we saw construction just sort of leap out of the gate in Tamarindo. And very much that attracted a lot of people because there aren't too many areas that present new inventory or exciting options for buyers looking on the market. Tamarindo now really feels like it went from a community that had a high season from December through April, where you really felt a high level of energy. And previously, their low seasons were pretty dramatic. Even in several months a year in Tamarindo, you could walk around and feel like you were just down to the locals who were walking around with you. Now, because of the quantity of people who've relocated, the number of new constructions, everything that's gone on in Tamarindo, really, there's barely a noticeable difference between the high season and the low season. Things do drop, and I actually kind of dread what things are going to look like this December and January in Tamarindo, because one of the key features of the community that is a little bit of a drawback is that you only have one main paved road into town. And that paved road has businesses all alongside of it throughout the center of town, where all kinds of delivery trucks will stop in one of the lanes in the road to make a delivery. It can be some very slow-moving traffic coming into Tamarindo. There is a back road out of the community, and if you're watching this, one of the top ways to hack Costa Rica and to love Tamarindo is to learn about this road here, which comes in, it's called Los Hobos. It leaves from a shopping center in Villarreal and comes in the back way to Tamarindo. Currently, only people who watch my channel and locals know about that road. And every day in and out of town from 7 through 9:30 in the morning, and then again from 2 until 5 in the evening can be really, really blocked up, as this intersection becomes a nightmare. There's no traffic light there. And, virtually everything in town also becomes difficult. We are hoping, everyone is hoping, that they will pave this Los Hobos road and make it truly, truly accessible so that it becomes a sustainable way for people to come in and out. And that will honestly be transformative for Tamarindo. The road and the traffic is currently the single biggest drawback to living there. And unless you like traffic, and when they are able to get that back road really flowing, all of a sudden you'll have a horseshoe with 2 roads instead of just one way in and out of town that is currently an absolute clogged mess many times of day. I wanted to ask out there if anybody has any questions about what we've covered so far. I'm quickly realizing, it being 8:48 p.m. on a Tuesday, with the wife and boys calmly sleeping at home, Guanacaste real estate market might have been too much to bite off in one chunk. And what we're going to do is schedule a second overview of the areas from Tamarindo all the way down to the end of Guanacaste. That'll be on Mattvent day number 10. Again, if you haven't been tuning in for Mattvent, every day we have different delectable little treats. We'll have different people like my colleague Camille, Mariam, all kinds of tidbits with Tamarindo tips, little bits and pieces of advice, some beach videos, all kinds of fun stuff to celebrate the month of December and all holidays everywhere. But frankly, folks, for now, I'm realizing that that is just plenty for one evening, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Hope to see some of you 2 days on December 7th in Tamarindo at the Surf Shack, 4:30 to 6:30 for 100 free drinks and the meet and greet. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody. Have a good night. Greetings from Costa Rica. My name is Matt Rosensteel, also known as Costa Rica Matt. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about everything related to moving to Costa Rica. Greetings from Costa Rica. Welcome to my new exclusive listing here in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Playa Junquillal, Playa Tamarindo, Costa Rica, real estate, a pura vida lifestyle. What the heck? Just kidding. So whether you're interested in buying real estate in Costa Rica or you just want to learn more about this beautiful country, do be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks very much for watching.